There are moments in life that change you forever, moments that divide your existence into a before and an after. For me, that moment arrived in a cold hospital hallway, under flickering fluorescent lights, while nurses hurried past without looking at me. That night at the hospital, I understood that the most painful words are not the ones that are shouted, they are the ones whispered coldly, in front of strangers who lower their eyes awkwardly, pretending not to have heard anything. "Mum, my wife only wants family here." My son's voice sounded distant, as if coming from very far away, even though he was standing just 3 feet away. I searched his eyes, those eyes I had seen open for the first time 32 years ago. Those eyes that looked at me with adoration when he was a boy. Those eyes that now avoided mine as if he were ashamed to see me. And then, while I searched for some sign of regret, some glimpse of the son I knew, Robert completed the sentence that would tear me in two. "Don't insist. She has never liked you." The world stopped. The voices of the hospital became a distant murmur. People's footsteps turned into echoes. And I stood there, rooted in that hallway, feeling how something inside of me was breaking without making a sound. 12 hours on the interstate. 12 hours sitting on an old bus that smelled of diesel and stale fast food. 12 hours looking out the foggy window, watching towns, mountains, endless highways pass, while I imagined that moment, the moment I would meet my grandson. I had planned every detail in my mind throughout the trip. I imagined what it would be like to hold him for the first time, how his tiny head would smell, how his soft skin would feel against my cheek. I imagined Robert's eyes shining with emotion as he introduced me to his son. I imagined Laura, tired but happy, letting me help her. I imagined so many things, but I never imagined this. I never imagined that my own son would look at me as if I were an intruder, as if I were a problem to be solved, as if my presence, after 12 hours of travel, after a lifetime of sacrifices, were a nuisance. The first cry of my grandson that I heard came from behind a closed door, a small, fragile, beautiful cry, and I was on the other side, like a stranger who is not allowed to enter. I thought of all the times Robert cried as a baby, how I rocked him for hours in the middle of the night, walking barefoot across the cold house, singing him made-up songs, promising him that everything would be all right. How his father slept soundly while I held our son against my chest, feeling his cries turn into sighs, and his sighs into sleep. I thought of the nights of fever, the rushed trips to the emergency room, the fears that only a mother knows. And now that same son, that man whom I had held when the world frightened him, was telling me that I was not welcome at the most important moment of his life. My name is Brenda Miller. I am 61 years old. I was born in Dallas, Texas, in a house with a big backyard and oak trees. I grew up helping my mother in the kitchen, learning to make biscuits from scratch, listening to her advice about life and love. I got married young, at 22, to a good, hard-working man, a man of few words, but a firm heart. We had Robert when I was 25, and from that day on, my whole life revolved around that boy. When my husband died, Robert was 15, a massive heart attack on a random Tuesday. He left without saying goodbye, like someone who closes a door without making a sound. And there we were, Robert and I, trying to figure out how to move forward without him. I sold our small hardware business. I worked wherever I could. I cleaned dental offices in the early hours of the morning, my hands smelling of bleach and disinfectant. I worked reception in the afternoons, coming home with swollen feet and an aching back, but always with a smile for my son, because he was my reason for being, my engine, my everything. And now that everything was looking at me with eyes I didn't recognize. I remained silent in that hallway, not because I didn't have words, I had them, thousands. I wanted to yell that I had traveled 12 hours. I wanted to remind him of everything I had done for him. I wanted to ask him when he had turned into this man who treated me like an obstacle. But I didn't say anything, because my mother taught me that there are moments when silence is more dignified than any word. I nodded slowly, swallowed hard. I felt the tears burning behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. I wasn't going to give anyone that satisfaction. I grabbed my worn leather purse, that dark brown bag my mother gave me when I turned 30, so you can carry it in all the important moments of your life, she had told me. And I certainly had. That purse had been with me when Robert was born, when he graduated from college, when he moved to New York City, and now it was with me in this humiliation. I turned on my heel. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't say congratulations. I didn't say anything. I just walked, one foot in front of the other, down that endless corridor of St. Jude's Hospital. The fluorescent lights flickered over my head. The smell of disinfectant made me dizzy. I heard distant voices, laughter from other families celebrating births, cries of babies, announcements over the loudspeaker. I walked past other grandmothers holding their newborns. I saw them smile, cry with happiness, take pictures. I saw them being part of something beautiful, and I kept walking. I left the hospital at 9 o'clock at night. The cold New York City air of February hit my face. I stood on the sidewalk, watching taxis drive by, watching people entering and leaving the hospital, watching life continue its normal course while mine fell apart. I didn't know where to go. My return bus wasn't until the following afternoon. I had planned to stay several days, help with the baby, cook for Robert and Laura, be useful. But there was nothing left for me to do there. I took a taxi to a cheap hotel I found online, a small room with thin walls and a creaky bed. From the hallway, I could hear laughter, loud televisions, couples arguing. I sat on the edge of that unfamiliar bed and finally let the tears out. I cried as I hadn't cried since my husband died. I cried for all the broken expectations, for all the destroyed illusions, for that grandson who had just been born and whom they hadn't allowed me to meet. But most of all, I cried for my son, for the boy who hugged me tight and said, "I love you, Mummy," before falling asleep, for the teenager who cried in my arms when his father died, for the young man who promised me he would always be there for me. Where had that son gone? At what point had he become this man who saw me as a burden? I barely slept that night. I lay staring at the stained ceiling of that cheap hotel, listening to the noises of the city that never sleeps, thinking about everything that had gone wrong. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I got up. I took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away some of the pain. I got dressed carefully. I put on the navy blue dress I had brought especially for this occasion. I put on makeup, even though no one would see me, because I wasn't going to let anyone see me defeated. I went down to the small hotel dining room for breakfast. Weak coffee and hard pastry, but it didn't matter. I wasn't hungry anyway. I spent the day walking aimlessly through the city, just walking, looking in shop windows, sitting on park benches, watching families go by. Mothers with their children, grandmothers with their grandchildren, complete families, happy, together, and I was completely alone. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I went to the bus terminal. I sat on a plastic bench to wait for my bus. There were other people waiting too. An elderly woman was reading a magazine. A young man was listening to music with headphones. A family was eating sandwiches and soda pop. Everyone had somewhere to go. Everyone had someone waiting for them. And I only had an empty house back in Dallas. The bus left at 6 o'clock. Another 12 hours of travel. But this time I wasn't looking out the window imagining happy moments. This time I only saw my reflection in the dark glass. A 61-year-old woman, tired, sad, alone. I wondered if Robert would notice I was gone, if he would care, if he would ever think I should have treated my mother better. But something told me no. Something told me that at this moment he was completely happy with his new family, with his wife, with his son, and I was just an uncomfortable thought he preferred to forget. I arrived in Dallas at 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun was just beginning to rise. The streets were empty. I took a taxi home. When I opened the door, everything was exactly as I had left it. The coffee mug I hadn't washed before leaving, the newspaper from the day before, the silence. That silence that used to be peace and was now loneliness. I dropped my suitcase on the floor. I hung my leather purse on the hook by the door. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat at my kitchen table. The same table where Robert and I used to have breakfast together when he was a boy. The same table where he did his homework while I cooked dinner. The same table where now I was completely alone. And it was there, sitting in that familiar kitchen, drinking coffee that tasted bitter, when my phone rang. It was an unknown number, New York City. For a second, my heart leaped. It's Robert, I thought. He regretted it. He's going to apologize. I answered with a trembling voice. Hello, Mrs. Brenda Miller? It was not my son's voice. Yes, that's me. Good afternoon, Ma'am. We're calling from St. Jude's Hospital, Billing and Collections Department. My blood ran cold. Yes, we have an outstanding balance on the birth account for your daughter-in-law, Mrs. Laura Torres Miller. The insurance covered most of it, but there is an outstanding balance of $10,000 for the type of room they requested and some special medications not covered by their policy. $10,000. Your son, Mr. Robert Miller, provided us with your number as an emergency contact for payment issues. Emergency contact for payment issues. Not to meet my grandson, not to be present, to pay. Ma'am, are you listening to me? I felt the coffee getting cold in my hand. I felt my heart beating slowly, very slowly. And at that moment, I understood everything. Robert hadn't given my number to the hospital because he wanted me to be close. He had given it because he needed my money. He needed me, the invasive mother, the unwelcome grandmother, to pay his bills. Mrs. Miller, can you make the deposit this week? Otherwise, we'll have to pass the account to a legal process that could affect your son's credit history. I took a deep breath. A very deep breath. I thought of all the times I had paid for things for Robert. College, books, the security deposit for his first apartment, clothes for his job interviews. Everything. Always everything. And I never asked for anything in return. Just love, just respect, just a place in his life. But he hadn't even given me that. Ma'am, my voice came out calm, calmer than I expected. I don't have family there. There was silence on the other end. Pardon me, I don't have family in New York City. There must be a mistake. I do not have a son named Robert Miller. But, Ma'am, our records clearly state that you are the patient's mother and that there is a mistake in your records. Good day. And I hung up. I put the phone down on the table with trembling hands. My heart was beating so loudly I could hear it in my ears. The tears burned, but this time I wouldn't let them out, because something inside of me had changed. Something that had been bending for months, for years perhaps, had finally snapped. But it didn't snap into pain. It snapped into clarity. I got up from the table, put my mug in the sink, walked to my living room and sat in my favorite armchair. The one my husband gave me 20 years ago. the one that had witnessed so many nights of reading, knitting, waiting for Robert to call. I stayed there, looking out the window toward my small backyard. The trees moved in the wind, the birds sang, life went on. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something akin to peace. It wasn't happiness, it wasn't joy, but it was peace. The peace of knowing that I had set a boundary, the peace of knowing that my dignity was worth more than the love of someone who didn't know how to value me, the peace of knowing that for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. Sometimes we trust too much in the wrong people. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. There are memories we keep like perfect photographs, moments frozen in time where everything was simple, where love didn't hurt, where being a mother was the most natural and beautiful thing in the world. Robert was born in the early hours of a July morning, 32 years ago. It was the rainy season, and that night the sky opened up as if wanting to wash the whole world. The streets of Dallas became rivers. The thunder rumbled so loudly it shook the windows. I was in bed, gripping my belly, feeling the contractions coming through me like waves, becoming more and more frequent. My husband, Richard, was pacing back and forth across the room, nervous, searching for the car keys, the hospital bag, trying to stay calm even though his hands were shaking. "Slow down, Richard. Relax," I told him between breaths. "We have time." But we didn't have much time. The contractions became more intense, more frequent. My body knew it was time, even though my mind wasn't ready yet to face the unknown. Richard helped me down the stairs. The rain soaked us in the few seconds it took to get to the car. He drove like I'd never seen him drive. Fast but careful, his hands clenched on the steering wheel. The wipers struggled against the downpour. "Hold on, honey. We're almost there." I was in the back, breathing as they had taught me in prenatal classes, counting the seconds between each contraction, watching the city pass by blurred in the rain through the window. And I was thinking, in a few hours, I'm going to meet my son. We arrived at Metro General Hospital at 3 o'clock in the morning. The nurses greeted me with professionalism, but also with warmth. They put me in a gown, hooked me up to monitors, checked me. "You're very far along, Ma'am. This baby is in a hurry." Richard stayed with me the whole time. He held my hand. He wiped the sweat from my forehead. He told me again and again, "You're doing great. You're incredible." And when the moment finally came to push, when I felt my body tearing in two, when the pain was so intense I thought I wouldn't survive, I heard the cry of my son. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. "A beautiful, healthy boy." They placed him on my chest. He was wet, wrinkled, perfect. His eyes were closed and his fists were clenched. And when I felt his skin against mine, when I heard his small, rapid breathing, I knew my life had changed forever. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "I'm your mummy." Richard was crying beside me. He hugged both of us. And at that moment, in that hospital room at 5 o'clock in the morning, with the rain still hitting the windows, we were the happiest family in the world. We named him Robert, after my grandfather, a man who worked in construction, with calloused hands and a huge heart, a man who fixed everything with patience and never raised his voice, who looked you in the eye when you spoke and made you feel like you were the most important person in the world. "May he be like him," I told Richard as I rocked our newborn. "May he be good. May he be noble." "He will be," my husband promised me. "With a mother like you, how could he not?" The first few years were like a dream, difficult, exhausting, but beautiful. Robert was a quiet baby. He didn't cry much. He slept well. But when he was awake, he was pure curiosity. He touched everything, looked at everything, smiled easily. I remember the mornings in our small house. I would wake up with the sun streaming through the window and Robert's cooing in his crib. I would pick him up, change him, breastfeed him while watching Dallas wake up through the window. Richard left for work early. He owned a small hardware store downtown. A modest business, but stable. He left at 6 in the morning and returned at 7 at night. Tired, but always with a smile for his son. I stayed home with Robert. Back then, I didn't work outside the home. We were a traditional family. Richard provided, I cared for the home, and I didn't mind. I loved it. I loved watching my son grow, watching him learn to sit up, to crawl, to walk. I loved hearing him babble his first words. Mommy was the first. Of course it was the first, because I was the one who was always there. When Robert turned 2, he started helping me in the kitchen. Well, helping is a strong word. He mostly made a mess. He stood on a stool next to the stove and stirred whatever I was cooking. He spilled flour, smeared dough on his face, laughed, and I laughed with him. We made cookies together. I showed him how to knead. His little hands tried to copy my movements. His cookies came out crooked, thick, but we baked them anyway and ate them together, laughing at how imperfect they were. When you're big, I would tell him, you're going to make the best cookies in Dallas. Like yours, Mummy, he'd say, better than yours. The house always smelled of vanilla and cinnamon, fresh coffee, homemade comfort food, of home. On Sundays, Richard, Robert, and I went to the park. We brought an old blanket and sat under the trees. Robert ran on the grass, chased pigeons, played on the playground equipment. Richard and I watched him from the blanket, holding hands, feeling like we had everything we needed. We're lucky, Richard would say to me. We are, I would reply. And we were. Robert grew up, from baby to boy, from boy to preteen. Each stage brought its challenges, but also its joys. When he started elementary school, I was one of the mothers who never missed a meeting, who baked cupcakes for the school carnivals, who helped with the costumes for the school play, who knew all the teachers by name. Robert was a good student, not necessarily the best in the class, but hard-working and responsible. We did homework together at the kitchen table. I explained math to him, even though I didn't always understand it well. He read me his English compositions, stories about superheroes, about dinosaurs, about space adventures. You're going to be a writer, I told him. No, Mommy, I'm going to be an engineer, like Uncle John. My brother was a civil engineer. Robert admired him. Every time my brother came to visit us, Robert bombarded him with questions. How are bridges built? Why don't buildings fall down? How does this work? How does that work? And my brother patiently explained everything. This kid is going to go far, he would tell me. And I believed him. The years passed quickly, too quickly. One day Robert was 5 years old and fit in my arms, and suddenly he was 15 and taller than me. It was in those years that Richard got sick. No, he didn't get sick. He died. Just like that, without warning, without goodbyes. It was a Tuesday in October. I remember the day perfectly because it was a normal day, completely normal. We had breakfast together. Richard left for work as always. He kissed me on the forehead. See you tonight, honey. But we didn't see each other that night. At 3 in the afternoon, I received a call. It was from the hardware store. Mrs. Miller, you need to come to the hospital. Richard, what happened? He had a heart attack. He's at Metro General Hospital. The world stopped. I arrived at the hospital running. Robert was with me. I had gone to pick him up from school. He was 15. He still didn't fully understand what was happening. A doctor came out to talk to us, a young man with tired eyes. "I'm very sorry. We did everything we could." "What?" "Your husband passed away 20 minutes ago. The heart attack was massive. He didn't suffer." Robert grabbed my arm. "Mum?" I didn't know what to tell him. I didn't know how to tell him that his father was gone, that we would never see him again, that our family of 3 was now a family of 2. They let us see him. He was on a gurney. He looked asleep, peaceful, as if he might open his eyes at any moment and say, "What happened? Why are you crying?" But he didn't. Robert slowly approached. He touched his hand. "Dad?" Silence. And then my son, my Robert, that teenager who was almost a man but was still my boy, collapsed. He cried like I hadn't seen him cry since he was a baby. A heartbreaking cry. The cry of someone who has just lost their world. I hugged him. I held him. I cried with him. And at that moment, I knew everything had changed. The following days were a blur. The funeral, people coming to offer condolences, the decisions that had to be made, the money we didn't have, the business that had to be closed. Everything fell apart so fast. I sold the hardware store. I had no choice. I didn't know how to run it. And we needed the money to survive. With that money, we paid Richard's debts, the funeral, the overdue bills. And I saved what was left for Robert's education, because my son was going to college. Even if I had to kill myself working, my son was going to have a career. I started working wherever I could. A dental clinic needed someone to clean the offices. They paid me little, but it was something. I started at 5 in the morning. I cleaned floors, bathrooms, windows. Everything smelled of bleach and disinfectant. My hands became rough. My back started to hurt. But I didn't care. At 2 in the afternoon, I would leave there and go straight to work at the reception of another clinic. I answered phones, scheduled appointments, smiled at patients even though I was dead tired. I left at 8 at night. I would arrive home and Robert would have already done his homework. He would have already prepared some dinner. He waited for me. "How was your day, Mummy?" "Good, honey. How about yours?" "Good." We ate dinner together. We talked about the day, his classes, his friends. And in those moments, sitting at our kitchen table, the two of us alone but together, I felt like we were going to be okay, that everything was going to work out, because we had each other. Robert graduated from high school with good grades. He applied to several universities. He was accepted at the University of Texas at Dallas to study civil engineering. "You did it, honey," I told him with tears in my eyes the day the acceptance letter arrived. "We did it, Mummy. You did it." He hugged me tight. "I don't know what I'd do without you. You're never going to have to know. I'll always be here." And I meant it. The college years were difficult, but also beautiful. Robert was diligent. He studied late. I would see him at the kitchen table, surrounded by books and notes, with cold coffee beside him, completely focused. Sometimes I stayed awake until he finished. I would make him something to eat. We sat together in silence, he exhausted, me tired, but together. "You know what I want to do when I graduate?" he asked me one night. "What?" "Build a bridge. A big one. That connects places. That unites people." "You're going to do it, honey. I know you are." He smiled. "And when I do, it's going to be named after you." "The Brenda Miller Bridge?" I laughed. "Absolutely not. Name it after your father." His expression softened. "Or both. The Richard and Brenda Bridge. That sounds better." On Sundays, we still went to the park. We no longer brought a blanket or played on the equipment, but we walked, we talked, we enjoyed the sun. We were a team, mother and son against the world, or so I thought. When Robert was in his final year of college, he started talking about leaving, about looking for work in another city, in New York City specifically. There are more opportunities there, Mummy. But it's all so far away. Not that far. It's a few hours on a bus. Robert, you know I support you in everything, but I'm afraid for you to go. Why? Because you're all I have. He sat beside me. He took my hands. And you're all I have. But I have to do this, Mommy. I have to grow. I have to prove myself. He was right. I knew it. But it hurt anyway. He graduated with honors. I was at the ceremony, in the front row, crying with pride. Watching him walk up to the stage in his cap and gown. Watching him receive his degree. I thought of Richard, how he would be just as proud. I thought of all the sacrifices, all the early mornings cleaning floors, all the sleepless nights. And I thought, it was worth it. Everything was worth it. After the ceremony, Robert hugged me. Thank you, Mummy. None of this would have been possible without you. Always, honey. I'll always be here for you. 2 months later, he found a job, a large construction company in New York City. Good salary, good benefits. You did it, I told him when he gave me the news. We did it. I helped him with everything, with the security deposit for the apartment, with the basic furniture, with clothes for work. I spent almost all my savings, but I didn't care. It was for my son. The day he left was one of the most difficult days of my life. I went with him to the bus terminal. We carried his big suitcase and his backpack. We waited together in the waiting area. When they announced his bus, we hugged. Take good care of yourself, honey. You too, Mummy. Call me when you arrive. Of course. And eat well. Don't just eat fast food. I won't. And don't stay up too late. Mummy, I'm going to be fine. I know, it's just that I'm going to miss you so much. And I'll miss you too. He got on the bus. He found his seat by the window. He waved at me. I stayed there, standing in that terminal, watching him through the dirty bus window, trying to engrave his face in my memory. The bus pulled away. I watched him drive away down the avenue, watching him get smaller and smaller until he disappeared into the traffic. And there, standing in that noisy, crowded terminal, I felt completely alone for the first time since Richard died. I got into a taxi and gave the driver my address. The whole way, I looked out the window without really seeing anything. When I got home, I walked in slowly. Everything was silent. A heavy, uncomfortable silence. I went to Robert's room. It was empty, the bed made, the desk clean. Only a few things he hadn't taken remained. Old posters on the walls, school trophies. I sat on his bed. It still smelled like him. And I cried. I cried because my son was gone, because the house was empty, because I realized I had spent the last 17 years living for him, and now I didn't know how to live for myself. But I told myself, it's normal, Brenda. Children grow up, children leave. That's life. And I tried to convince myself that it was true. I tried to convince myself that this was natural, that I should be proud, that my job as a mother had been to prepare him for this moment. But a part of me, a small part that didn't want to admit it, felt that something was wrong. That emptiness wasn't just because he was gone, it was something deeper. It was the feeling that things would never be the same, that the son who had promised me he would always be there was slowly pulling away in a way I couldn't stop. And I was right, but I didn't know it yet. I still clung to the image of the boy who hugged me in the park, the teenager who cried in my arms when his father died, the young man who told me that nothing would have been possible without me. I didn't know that that son was becoming a thing of the past and that the man he was turning into was someone I wouldn't recognize. As I tell all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. The first 3 months were perfect. Well, not perfect, but good enough to keep hope alive. Robert called me every day, every night to be exact, at 9 o'clock sharp, after getting home from work, after dinner, before going to bed. My phone would ring, and no matter what I was doing, I would answer immediately. Honey? Hi, Mummy. How was your day? And we would talk. About everything. About nothing. About his job at the construction company. About the projects he was working on. About his co-workers. About the huge city that still intimidated him a little. It's so big, Mummy. There are so many people, so many cars, so much noise. Do you like it? Yes and no. It's exciting, but also tiring. Sometimes I miss the quiet of Dallas. You can always come back, honey. Your home is here. I know, Mummy, thank you. I told him about my day too. Work at the clinic, my lifelong friend Sarah who kept asking about him, the weather, the neighborhood news. Simple, ordinary conversations. But to me they meant the world, because they meant we were still connected, that the physical distance hadn't broken our bond. Weekends were harder, the hours stretched endlessly. I would wake up on Saturday morning, and the house was silent, a silence that Robert used to fill with his music, his footsteps, his voice. I tried to fill that void with activities. I cleaned the house from top to bottom, even though it was already clean. I cooked, even if it was just for myself. I watched television without really paying attention. Sarah came to visit me almost every Sunday. Oh, Brenda, you need to get out more, meet people. You can't stay cooped up here waiting for Robert to call. I'm not cooped up, and I'm not waiting for him to call. I'm just enjoying my peace and quiet. Peace and quiet, Sarah snorted. This isn't peace and quiet. It's loneliness. Maybe she was right, but I wasn't ready to admit it. The first subtle change came in the 4th month. One Tuesday, Robert didn't call at 9 o'clock. I waited until 9:30. Nothing. At 10, I sent him a text. Everything okay, honey? He replied an hour later. Yeah, Mummy. Sorry, time got away from me. No problem. Want to talk? I'm really tired. Can we talk tomorrow? Of course, honey. Get some rest. The next day he did call, but the conversation was shorter. 15 minutes instead of an hour. Sorry, Mummy. I have to finish some work stuff. It's okay, honey. Don't worry. I believed him. Of course I believed him. It was natural that he would be busy, that work would absorb him, that he would have less time. But then it went from calling every day to calling every other day, and then every 3 days, and then once a week. The change was gradual but constant, like a tide receding so slowly that you don't realize it until you're standing on the empty beach, wondering where the ocean went. When we did call, his voice sounded different, distant, as if he was thinking about other things while talking to me. Robert, are you okay? You sound strange. I'm fine, Mummy. Just tired. Are you eating well? Yes. Are you getting enough sleep? Yes, Mummy. Are you sure everything is fine? A sigh on the other end. Yes, Mum. Everything is fine. I've just been really busy. I understand, honey. I don't want to bother you. You're not bothering me. But his tone said otherwise. I tried not to be intense, not to call him so much, to wait for him to reach out. But the days between calls got longer. 1 week, 2 weeks. There was one time when 18 days passed without us talking. 18 days where I woke up every morning hoping my phone would ring, where I compulsively checked for messages, where I wondered if I had done something wrong, if I had overwhelmed him, if I had been too demanding. When he finally called me, after those 18 days, I tried to sound casual. "Honey? What a surprise." "Hi, Mummy. How have you been?" "Good, good. And you?" "Very busy. Work is intense." "So intense you can't call your mother?" I said it jokingly, but it came out sharper than I intended. Uncomfortable silence. "I'm sorry, Mummy. I've really been swamped with work." "I understand. It's just that I miss you, honey. I miss talking to you. And I miss you too. But you have to understand that my life here is different. I have a lot of responsibilities." "I know. I don't want to pressure you. I just want to hear from you. And you will hear from me. I promise I'll call more often." But he didn't. The calls continued to space out. And when we talked, they were briefer each time, more superficial. He no longer told me about his day. He no longer asked about mine. They were functional conversations, like fulfilling a duty. "How are you?" "Good. What have you been doing?" "Working. Anything new?" "No." "Well, honey, I'll let you rest." "Okay, Mummy, take care," and we would hang up. I was left with the phone in my hand, feeling how something invisible but real was breaking between us. It was on one of those brief, almost perfunctory calls that Robert dropped the bomb. "Oh, Mummy, I met someone." My heart skipped a beat, not out of alarm, out of excitement. A girlfriend. My son had a girlfriend. "Really, honey, that's wonderful. Tell me everything." For the first time in weeks, I heard genuine excitement in his voice. "Her name is Laura. She's an architect. She works at the same construction company." "That's great, honey. What's she like?" "She's incredible, Mummy. She's smart, talented, beautiful. She's 28. She graduated from NYU." 28. Robert was 24. She was older, but it didn't matter. "I'm so happy for you, honey. Have you been dating long?" "About 2 months." 2 months. And he was just telling me now. "And how is everything going?" "Really well. Honestly, I'm so happy, Mummy. I haven't felt this way in a long time." His happiness was palpable, genuine, and I was happy for him. A mother always wants to see her son happy. "I would love to meet her, honey." There was a small pause. "Yeah, sure. Sometime." "Sometime, Mummy. It's still really early. We're just getting to know each other." "But you've been dating for 2 months." "Yeah, but we'll see. I don't want to rush things." I nodded, although he couldn't see me. "It's all right, honey. Whenever you want." "Thanks for understanding." "Will you send me a picture of you two?" Another pause. "Later, okay? I have to go. Laura is waiting for me." Laura is waiting for me. Those 4 words stabbed my chest, and I didn't know why. "Okay, honey. Have fun." "Thanks, Mummy. I love you." "I love you too." He hung up before I could say anything else. I sat in my armchair, looking at the phone, trying to process what had just happened. My son had a girlfriend. It was good news. I should be celebrating. So why did I feel this knot in my stomach? I tried to convince myself it was just a mother's nerves, that it was natural to worry, that any mother feels something when her son starts a serious relationship. But it was more than that. It was the tone of his voice when he talked about her. The way he had said, "Laura is waiting for me," as if she was the most important thing now, as if I had been relegated to second place, or third place, or no place at all. The following weeks confirmed my suspicions. Robert barely called anymore, and when he did, all the conversations revolved around Laura. Laura and I went to this restaurant. Laura showed me this place. Laura says that. Laura, Laura, Laura. I listened. I smiled. I asked the appropriate questions, but inside I felt myself disappearing from his life. I sent him texts, and he took hours to reply, sometimes days. "Sorry, Mummy. I've been with Laura." I tried to get to know her through the little Robert shared. From what I understood, she came from a well-off New York City family. Her father was an architect too. Her mother was a university professor. She had a younger sister studying medicine. A different family from ours. A family with money, with generations of college education, with connections, not like us. Like a family from Dallas, middle class that became lower class when Richard died. A mother who cleaned floors and a son who had studied on scholarships. I wondered what Laura would think of us, of me. I tried not to think that way, not to create stories in my head, but it was hard when Robert shared less and less with me. One day, while we were talking on the phone, I heard a woman's voice in the background. "Robert, are you coming?" "I'll be right there, honey." "Honey, is Laura there?" I asked. "Yeah, Mommy, she's here at the apartment." "Oh, I didn't know you were living together." Silence. "We're not living together. She just came to visit me." "I understand." Another uncomfortable silence. "Mommy, I have to go. Laura and I are going out." "Of course, honey, have fun." "Thanks. I'll call you later." But later became an empty promise. Months passed. Robert became more evasive, more distant, more absent. For my 60th birthday, he didn't come. He sent flowers by mail. Yellow roses, 12 roses, one for each month we hadn't seen each other. The card said, "Happy birthday, Mummy. Sorry I couldn't be there. Laura and I have a lot of work. Love you lots. Robert." I stared at those flowers for hours. They were pretty. Expensive, probably. But they were cold. There was no warmth in them, no presence. They were just a reminder that my son was hundreds of miles away, too busy with his new life to come see his mother on her birthday. Sarah organized a dinner at my house. She invited some neighborhood friends. We made turkey and stuffing. We sang Happy Birthday. We ate cake. Everyone asked about Robert. "Didn't your son come?" "He couldn't. He's very busy with work." "Oh, what a shame. I'm sure he misses you very much." I smiled. I'm sure. But inside I wondered if it was true. That night, after everyone left, I picked up the dishes alone. I put away the leftovers, I swept the floor, I cleaned the kitchen, and when everything was finally clean and tidy, I sat in my armchair with a cup of tea. The yellow roses were in a vase on the table. I stared at them, and for the first time, I allowed myself to think what I had been avoiding for months. My son is pulling away, and I didn't know how to stop it. Worse, I was beginning to suspect that I couldn't stop it. Because when someone wants to leave, when someone has decided that there are things more important than you, there is nothing you can do. You can only watch them go, and try not to break in the process. The flowers wilted over the days. The petals turned brown. They fell off one by one. I should have thrown them away. Any normal person would have thrown them away. But I left them there, dry, dead, in that vase on my table, as a reminder of something I didn't want to accept yet. That the son I knew, the son who called me every day, the son who told me nothing would have been possible without me, that son no longer existed, or at least, he no longer existed for me. There are moments in life where you force yourself to believe a lie because the truth is too painful. Moments where you convince yourself that you are the problem, because it's easier to change yourself than to accept that someone you love is hurting you. I reached that point after my 60th birthday. I sat in my kitchen looking at those dead roses and made a decision. I was to blame. Of course I was. I probably called too much. I probably asked too many questions. I was probably one of those intense mothers, the kind who don't know how to let go of their children, the kind who suffocates them with her love. Robert needed space. He needed to build his own life. And I, with my constant need to hear from him, to talk to him, to be part of his world, was drowning him. That narrative made sense. It was logical. It was what all the psychology magazines said. Learn to let go of your adult children. Don't be a helicopter mom. Let your son live his life. So I decided to do exactly that. I stopped calling him. Completely. If he wanted to talk to me, he would call me. I wasn't going to pressure him anymore. A week passed without us talking. I waited. I compulsively checked my phone, but I didn't dial his number. Give him space, I repeated to myself. He's busy. He'll call you when he can. 2 weeks passed. 3. A month. It was hard for me to breathe on some days. I woke up in the mornings with a weight on my chest, wondering if Robert would call me that day. I went to work. I came home. I looked at my phone. Nothing. Sarah noticed. Of course. Brenda, how long has it been since you talked to Robert? A month, more or less. And why don't you call him? Because I'm trying to give him space, not be intense. Sarah looked at me with those eyes I had known for 40 years, those eyes that saw through all my defenses. Or are you punishing yourself for needing your son? Her words hit me. I'm not punishing myself. I'm just respecting his space. There's a difference between respecting his space and disappearing from his life, Brenda. And what do you want me to do? Call him and bother him? Pressure him? I want you to stop thinking that needing your son is bothering him. I stayed silent. Sarah sighed. I don't know what's going on with Robert, but I know it's not your fault. You're a loving mother, a good mother, and if he can't see that, the problem is his, not yours. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But it was easier to blame myself. In the 5th week, my phone finally rang. It was Robert. My heart leaped so violently I thought it would jump out of my chest. I took 3 deep breaths before answering. I tried to sound casual, as if I hadn't been waiting for this call for 35 days. Honey? Hi, Mummy. How have you been? His voice sounded cheerful, light, as if nothing had happened, as if we hadn't gone more than a month without speaking. Good, honey. And you? Very well. Very well. In fact, I called you because I have some news. My heart sped up again. What happened? Laura and I are getting married. The world stopped. All the background noise disappeared. The ticking of the kitchen clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant barking of a dog on the street. Everything went silent. Mummy, are you there? Yes, sorry, honey, What a surprise. A good surprise? I swallowed hard. Of course it is. Congratulations, honey. I'm so happy for you. Was I happy? I didn't know. I felt so many things at the same time that I couldn't distinguish one emotion from another. Joy because my son was happy. Fear because everything was changing too fast. Pain because I barely knew this woman with whom my son would share his life. And a question I didn't dare ask out loud. Is there room for me in this new family you're building? Thanks, Mummy. I'm very excited. I can imagine. When is the wedding? In 3 months. It's going to be something simple. In New York City. Just close family and intimate friends. Of course. I'll definitely be there. There was a pause. Small, but noticeable. Great. I'll send you the details by email. By email? Yeah, Mummy. Laura is organizing everything online. It's easier that way. I understand. I didn't understand anything. Well, Mummy, I have to go. I need to keep calling people. Have you told many people already? Yeah. Laura's parents, her sister, some friends. And you're just telling me now? It slipped out. I didn't want to sound resentful, but it sounded exactly like that. Mummy, please don't start. I'm not starting anything, I'm just asking. Well, it sounds like it. Look, you're important to me, but I also have to coordinate with a lot of people. Not everything revolves around you. His words were like a slap. I'm not saying everything revolves around me. Then don't take it personally. How can I not take it personally, Robert? I'm your mother. Exactly. You're my mother, not my wife. Laura is my priority now. Silence. A long, heavy silence, full of everything we couldn't say to each other. Mommy, I'm still here. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound like that. It's just that there's a lot of stress with the wedding. Lots of decisions. Lots of things to organize. I understand. Do you really? Yes, honey, I really do. Congratulations. Congratulations to both of you. Thanks, Mummy. That means a lot to me. Did it mean a lot? I wasn't sure of anything anymore. I'll send you the wedding details, okay? Okay. I love you, Mummy. And I love you too, honey. He hung up. I remained seated in my kitchen with the phone still to my ear, listening to the dial tone, feeling how something inside of me cracked a little more. My son was getting married, to a woman I didn't know, in a wedding that was being planned without my involvement. And I was smiling and saying I was happy for them, because that was what I was supposed to do. 2 days later, I received the invitation by email. It was elegant, professional, with a minimalist design in beige and gold tones. There was a photo of Robert and Laura, him smiling from ear to ear. Her, beautiful, in a white dress, perfect makeup, wavy hair falling over her shoulders. They looked happy. They looked in love. And I felt like an intruder looking at that photo. The invitation said, Robert Miller and Laura Torres request the honor of your presence at the celebration of their marriage. It didn't say, with love, Robert and Laura. It didn't say, we want to share this special day with you. Just, request the honor of your presence. As if I were just another guest. Like any coworker, like any distant acquaintance, like someone expendable. I printed the invitation. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to see it on paper for it to feel real. I put it on the refrigerator with a magnet. For the next few days, I looked at it every time I walked past the kitchen, and each time I felt the same knot in my stomach. A week later, summoning my courage, I called Robert. Honey? What is it, Mummy? I received the invitation. Oh, that's great. What did you think of it? Very nice. Hey, honey, I wanted to ask you something. Tell me. Do you think I could meet Laura before the wedding? Maybe we could get coffee or lunch together. Oh, silence on the other end. It's just that it's complicated, Mummy. Complicated? Yeah. Laura and I are organizing everything. We're running around, tasting cakes, looking at flowers, talking to the photographer. It's chaos. I understand, but I thought that's exactly why I could help. I'm your mother. I'd love to be involved. Yeah, but Laura has very clear ideas about how she wants everything to be. And her mum is helping her with the organization. You know how brides are. They want everything to be perfect. Laura's mum is helping her, but I'm not. I understand. There will be time after the wedding for you two to get to know each other better, right? When things calm down, I guess. Perfect. So I'll see you at the wedding. Robert. Yes? Can I at least talk to her on the phone? Introduce myself. Congratulate her. Another awkward pause. Let me ask her, okay? She's really stressed too. I don't want to pressure her. Pressure her? As if I were a burden, a problem, something that caused stress. It's all right, honey. I don't want to cause problems. You're not causing problems, Mummy. It's just that, you know. No, I didn't know. I'll let you go. You need to continue with the preparations. Of course, take care. You too. I hung up and looked at the phone. I realized I was trembling, not from cold, from anger, from frustration, from pain, but most of all, from helplessness. Because it didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter what I did. I had been relegated to a secondary role in my son's life, and he didn't even see it. Or worse, he saw it and didn't care. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. During that time, Robert called me 3 times. Brief conversations, always in a hurry, always with an excuse to hang up quickly. I swallowed my questions, my desire to know more, my need to be involved, because I didn't want to be the intense mother, the problematic mother. I wanted to be understanding, patient, respectful, even if it was killing me inside. Sarah invited me out, to the movies, to walk, to lunch, trying to get me out of the house, out of the spiral of thoughts I was sinking into. Brenda, you can't go on like this. Like what? Like this, waiting, swallowing everything, pretending you're fine when you clearly aren't. I am fine. No, you're not. And it's okay not to be. What's not okay is that you keep pretending. But pretending was easier than facing the truth, and the truth was too painful. 2 weeks before the wedding, I decided I needed to buy something to wear. I couldn't show up at my son's wedding in just anything. I had to look good, presentable. I went to a shopping mall. I went into several stores. I tried on dresses, blouses, skirts. I didn't like anything. Or rather, nothing made me feel the way I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel important, valued, like the mother of the groom. But every dress I tried on made me feel invisible. I finally bought a navy blue dress, elegant, but not flashy, appropriate for a wedding, appropriate for just another guest. I also bought new shoes, and I went to the neighborhood beauty salon to have my hair done. Special occasion? The stylist asked. My son's wedding. How exciting. First son? The only one. Oh, that's lovely. I'm sure he's so happy to share this day with you. I smiled. I'm sure. Lies. It was all lies. But it was easier to lie to strangers than to admit the truth. The day before the wedding, I took the bus to New York City. Another 12 hours of travel. But this time I wasn't excited. I wasn't imagining beautiful moments. I went with a knot in my stomach. With fear. With the certainty that something was going to go wrong. I arrived early in the morning. Robert had given me the address of a hotel near the wedding venue. nothing luxurious. A simple room in a 3-star hotel. I checked in. I went up to the room. I left my suitcase. I sat on the bed. And I allowed myself to cry for a few minutes. Just a few minutes. Because I had to pull myself together. I had to be ready. I had to be strong. The wedding was at 4 in the afternoon in a garden south of the city. I arrived at 3. I didn't want to be late, but I also didn't want to be the first. When I arrived, there were already people there. Waiters setting up the last things, musicians preparing their instruments, flowers everywhere. It was beautiful, simple but elegant, and I stood there, at the entrance, feeling completely out of place. I saw Laura in the distance. She was with a group of women, all laughing, all beautiful, all impeccably dressed. I took a deep breath and approached. Laura turned around. She looked me up and down. Her eyes lingered a second longer than necessary on my shoes, my dress, my hair. And in that second, I knew exactly what she was thinking. This woman doesn't fit here. But she smiled. A perfect, practiced smile. You must be Brenda, Robert's mother. Yes, nice to finally meet you, Laura. I reached out to hug her. She accepted it, but it was mechanical, without warmth, like hugging someone you were forced to hug. She quickly pulled away. It's nice to meet you. Robert has told me so much about you. Had he? I doubted it. You too. You look beautiful. Thank you. Uncomfortable silence. Well, excuse me. I have to continue greeting guests. You know how it is. And she left, without another word, without asking how I was, without asking about the trip, without introducing me to the women she was with. She just left. I stood there, in the middle of that beautiful garden, surrounded by strangers, feeling more alone than ever. I looked for Robert. I found him near the altar, talking to some men in suits. He looked nervous but happy. I approached. Honey? He turned around. Mom, you made it. He hugged me. It was a quick hug, the kind you give when people are watching. Of course I made it, honey. I wouldn't miss it for anything. I'm glad. Hey, thanks for coming. As if I had a choice not to come. How are you feeling? Nervous, excited, all rolled into one. That's normal. Yeah. One of the men called him. Excuse me, Mom. I have to get back to this. We'll talk later, okay? Of course, honey. And he left too. I was left there, alone, again. I looked for my seat in the chairs. There were name cards. I found mine. 3rd row, not the first. Not next to the immediate family. The 3rd. I sat down. I looked around. The 1st row was reserved for Laura's parents. The 2nd for the grandparents and aunts and uncles. I, the mother of the groom, was in the 3rd row, among distant cousins and family friends. As if I were an afterthought, someone who wasn't that important. I swallowed hard. I tried not to cry. It doesn't matter, I told myself. What matters is that Robert is happy. But it did matter. Of course it mattered. The ceremony began. It was beautiful. Robert looked so happy. Laura looked radiant. When they exchanged vows, I cried. But they weren't tears of joy alone. They were tears of grief. Because something told me I was losing my son, not to a new life. I was losing him. After the wedding, everything fell into silence. Not the kind of peaceful silence that comforts you, but the kind of deafening silence that constantly reminds you of what you've lost. Robert called me once after returning from their honeymoon, a week in Maui, Hawaii, that I saw completely documented on Laura's social media. Photos on the beach, in elegant restaurants, toasting with champagne glasses, smiling, kissing, happy. I liked every photo. I commented things like, "So beautiful," or "Enjoy yourselves." Laura never replied to my comments, not a single one. When Robert finally called, he sounded relaxed, content. "Hi, Mummy. How have you been?" "Good, honey. How was the honeymoon?" "Incredible. Maui is beautiful. You should go sometime." "Maybe." "With what money?" I wanted to say, but I didn't. "And what have you been up to?" "The usual. Work. The house. Nothing special." "That's good." Silence. "Well, Mummy, I just called to say hi. We're organizing the apartment. Laura brought a lot of stuff, and we have to put everything away." "Of course, honey. Don't worry. I'll call you soon, okay?" "When you can. Take care." "You too." He hung up. 5 minutes. The conversation lasted 5 minutes. I was left staring at the phone, feeling that emptiness in my chest getting bigger. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. Robert called me every 2 or 3 weeks. Brief, superficial conversations, always in a hurry. "How are you, Mummy?" "Good, honey. And you? How is everything with Laura?" "Good, good. Everything's quiet." "I'm glad." "Hey, when are you coming to visit me? It's been so long since I've seen you both." "Soon, Mummy. Soon, soon." That word became an empty promise, a placebo he gave me to keep me quiet. But soon never came. I tried to fill my days. Sarah and I signed up for knitting classes at the community centre. I learned to make scarves, hats, baby blankets. "Who are those little blankets for?" Sarah asked me one day. "For when I have grandchildren," I replied without thinking. Sarah looked at me but didn't say anything. We both knew that was a long way from happening. Or so I thought. It was on one of those bi-weekly calls that Robert gave me the news. It was a Tuesday night. I was watching television when my phone rang. I saw his name on the screen, and my heart did that leap it always did when he called. "Honey?" "Hi, Mummy, how are you?" "Good. Is everything okay there?" "Yeah, very good. Actually, I have some news." Something in his tone alerted me. He sounded excited, nervous, like when he was a boy and had something important to tell me. "What's wrong?" "Laura is pregnant." The world stopped. All the background noise disappeared. The television, the hum of the refrigerator, the street traffic. Everything went silent. "Mummy, are you there?" Yes, yes, sorry, what did you say?" "Laura is pregnant. We're having a baby." I felt the tears rising, my heart expanding so much it hurt. "Honey, you don't know how happy I am." And it was true. I was genuinely happy. I was going to be a grandmother. After so many years raising Robert, after all the sacrifices, after all the pain, I was going to have a grandson. How far along is she? 3 months. 3 months. And you're just telling me now? Why didn't you tell me sooner? We wanted to wait. You know, just in case. The first 3 months are the most delicate. I understand. But I didn't understand why he had told other people before me, because I was sure I wasn't the first to know. "And how is Laura? How does she feel?" "Tired, but okay. She's had some morning sickness, but nothing serious. She's excited." "I can imagine. Do you know what it is yet?" "Not yet. They'll tell us at the next appointment." "How exciting, honey." "Yeah, Mummy. I'm very happy." Scared too, but happy. For the first time in months, I heard genuine warmth in his voice. I heard the son I knew, the boy who looked for me when he was scared, the young man who shared his dreams with me. You're going to be a wonderful father, honey. I hope so. I know you will. Comfortable silence, the kind we hadn't had in a long time. Hey, Mummy. Yes? Thank you. For everything. For always being there. I felt the tears finally overflowing. Always, honey. I'll always be here for you. I know. We talked a little more. He told me about their plans, about the baby's room they would start preparing, about the names they were considering. When we hung up, I sat in my armchair, crying. But this time they were tears of happiness, of hope, of thinking that maybe, just maybe, things were changing. That with the arrival of this baby, Robert would let me be a part of his life again. That I could be the grandmother I had always dreamed of being. How naive I was. The following days were the happiest I had had in months. I told Sarah, my co-workers, the ladies from the knitting group, I'm going to be a grandmother. Everyone congratulated me. They hugged me. They shared my joy. I started knitting. A blue blanket in case it was a boy. A pink one in case it was a girl. Then I decided to make a yellow one just to be sure. Every stitch was a prayer, a thought of love for that baby I hadn't met yet, but whom I already loved with all my heart. I called Robert a few days later. Honey, I'm knitting a little blanket for the baby. That's sweet, Mummy, thank you. Can I make something else? Hats? Booties? Sure, Mummy, whatever you want. And Laura? Can I talk to her? Congratulate her? Ask her what she needs? There was a pause. She's resting right now, but I'll tell her to call you. Do you promise? I promise. But Laura never called. I sent her a message on social media. Laura, congratulations on the pregnancy. I'm so excited to be a grandmother. If you need anything, anything at all, I'm here. Big hug. She read it. I saw the 2 check marks, but she didn't reply. I sent her another message a week later. Hi, Laura. How are you feeling? I hope you're well. Sending a hug. She read it. She didn't reply. I tried not to take it personally. I told myself she was busy, that the pregnancy had her tired, that she probably didn't even realize she wasn't responding to me. But something inside me knew that wasn't it. I called Robert again. Honey, I sent Laura some messages, but she hasn't replied. Is she okay? Yeah, Mummy. She's fine. She's just very tired. You know how pregnancy is. Can you tell her to call me? Even for 5 minutes. I'd like to talk to her. Another awkward silence. Mummy, Laura isn't much for talking on the phone. She prefers texts. But she's not replying to my texts. Give her time. She's very sensitive right now with the pregnancy. There was always an excuse. There was always a reason why I couldn't get closer. Months passed. I followed Laura's pregnancy on social media. She posted photos of her bump, of the clothes they were buying, of the baby's room they were decorating. It was a boy. They were going to name him Liam. Liam. My grandson would be named Liam. I commented on every post. How beautiful. I can't wait to meet my Liam. I love you both. Laura never replied. Not once. But she did reply to other people's comments, her friends, her family. She only ignored mine. I tried not to give it too much importance. I told myself it was my imagination, that I was being paranoid. But it was hard to ignore the obvious. I sent a package by mail, the blanket I had knitted, a teddy bear, a card. The card said, For my future grandson. I can't wait to meet you. I already love you more than words can express. Your Grandma Brenda. 2 weeks passed before I received a text from Robert. Mommy, your package arrived, thanks. The blanket is nice. That was it. Not a photo of Laura holding the blanket. Not a thank you message from her. Nothing. Just, the blanket is nice. As if it were just any object, not something I had made with my own hands. With love. With hope. I called Robert. Honey, did Laura like the blanket? Yeah, Mommy. I already texted you. I know, but I thought maybe she would call me to thank me. Mummy, I already told you. She's not very expressive. Not even a text. She's very tired. The pregnancy has her exhausted. Always the same excuse. And you, honey? How do you feel? Nervous? Yes, very nervous, but also excited. Have you gone to prenatal classes? Yes, Laura and her mum go together. Laura and her mum, not Laura and me. And do you go with them? Sometimes, when I can get off work. That's good, honey. I wanted to ask him why I wasn't invited, why Laura's mum could be involved, but I couldn't. But I was afraid of sounding resentful, of sounding like the problem. So I swallowed it, as I swallowed everything. Hey, honey, I wanted to ask you something. Tell me, when Liam is born, can I come meet him? It should have been a ridiculous question. Obvious. Of course, a grandmother can go meet her grandson, but something in our silence told me that nothing was obvious with them. Of course, Mummy, of course. When? The same day he's born. We better wait to see how everything goes, okay? Birth can be complicated. Laura is going to need time to recover. I understand. But after, yes, right? Can I go after? Yes, Mummy, we'll see how we organize everything. We'll see. Another vague promise. Another way of saying maybe without saying no. It's all right, honey. Hey, Mummy, I have to go. Laura is calling me. Of course. Say hi to her for me. I will. Take care. He hung up. I was left sitting in my kitchen, looking at the photos I had taped to the refrigerator. Old photos of Robert, the day he was born, his first day of school, his graduation. And I thought about how that baby in my arms had become a man who kept me at a distance, how that relationship that had been my reason for living for 32 years was falling apart, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. Sarah came to visit me that afternoon. How are things with Robert? Good. Laura is pregnant. That's wonderful. When is she due? In 3 months. Have you planned when you're going to go? I stayed silent. Brenda, were you invited? Robert says yes, after the birth. After? Not the same day? He says Laura will need time. Sarah looked at me with those eyes that saw everything. Brenda, what is really going on? And it was then, sitting in my kitchen with my best friend, that I finally said it out loud. I think Laura doesn't want me around. Why do you think that? Because she ignores my texts, because she doesn't thank me for the things I send her, because Robert always has an excuse for me not to talk to her, because Laura's mum is involved in everything. But I'm not. I feel like they're pushing me away from my own grandson before he's even born. Tears began to fall. Sarah hugged me. Oh, Brenda. I don't know what to do, Sarah. I've tried everything. I've been patient. I've given space. I've tried not to pressure them. But nothing works. Have you talked about this with Robert? I can't. If I do, I'll sound like the problematic mother-in-law, the intense grandmother, and then they really will push me away completely. but you can't stay quiet forever. And what do you want me to do? Demand it? Complain? I already lost my son. I can't risk losing my grandson, too. Sarah sighed. You haven't lost your son. But we both knew I had. Or at least I had lost the son I knew, that son who called me every day, who included me in his life, who made me feel important. That son no longer existed, and the man he had become saw me as an obligation, as something he had to manage, as a problem to be solved. 2 weeks before Liam was due, I summoned my courage and called Robert. Honey, I need to talk to you. I want to be there when Liam is born. Silence. Mummy, we already talked about this. No, we didn't talk. You told me we would see, but I need to know. I need to plan. I need to buy my ticket. It's just that I don't know if it's a good idea, Mummy. I felt the floor open up beneath my feet. What? Laura is very nervous, very anxious. The doctors say she needs to be calm. And I won't let her be calm? It's not that. It's just that having a lot of people around stresses her out. A lot of people? I'm your mother. I'm the grandmother. I know, Mummy, but… I heard voices in the background, Laura saying something I couldn't catch. Mummy, we better talk later, okay? No, Robert, please, just tell me the truth. Does Laura not want me to come? Silence. Long. Too long. She thinks that it would be better to wait a few days. Give us time to settle in. To adjust. And what do you think? I think I have to support my wife. She's the one who's giving birth. She's the one who's going to be vulnerable. I won't hurt her, Robert. I didn't say you would hurt her. Then why can't I go? Because she needs space, Mommy. Why can't you understand that? His tone became defensive, frustrated. I do understand, honey. What I don't understand is why Laura's mum can be there, but I can't. Because she's her mum, and I'm yours. It's different. Why is it different? Because it is, Mummy. Just let it go. Robert, Mummy, please don't make things difficult. I'm already stressed enough. Laura is about to give birth. I have a lot of work. I'm trying to keep everything under control. Can you, for once, not make this harder? His words hit me like a slap. Make what harder? Wanting to meet my grandson? Yes, that. Because now is not a good time. And when is a good time going to be? When I tell you. Silence. A cold, hard silence, full of everything we weren't saying. I understand, I finally said. You really do? Robert asked, with obvious relief on his face. Yes, thanks, Mummy. I knew you would understand. But I didn't understand anything. I only understood that they were leaving me out. That after all the sacrifices, after all the love, after everything I had given, I wasn't important enough to be present at one of the most important moments of my son's life. I'll let you know when he's born, okay? Whatever you want. Mummy, don't be like that. I'm not being any way, Robert. I'm just respecting what you and Laura want. Thank you. You're welcome. I love you, Mummy. Did he love me? I wasn't sure what that meant anymore. And I love you too, honey. I hung up before I started to cry. I sat in my armchair and cried like I hadn't cried in months. I cried for that grandson who was about to be born and whom I might not meet for weeks or months or ever. I cried for that son who had chosen to leave me out. I cried for that relationship that was dying and I couldn't save it. And I cried for myself, for the woman who had given everything and now had nothing. The day my grandson was born was one of the strangest days of my life. a mix of absolute joy and deep pain that I didn't know could coexist at the same moment. I didn't receive any calls, any texts, any notifications. I found out on social media. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was at work, cleaning the last office of the day, when my phone vibrated. A social media notification. Normally, I ignored them until I got home, but something made me check. It was a post from Laura. The photo showed a newborn baby wrapped in a hospital blue blanket. Small, perfect, with his eyes closed and his tiny fists clenched against his face. His skin still reddish, the white hat covering his head. The caption said, "The love of our lives has arrived. Welcome, Liam Miller. 6.6 pounds, 20 inches, mum and baby healthy and happy." I froze in the middle of the office, the mop still in my hands, looking at that photo on my phone screen. My grandson had been born, and I was finding out through social media, like any stranger, like any distant acquaintance, as if I weren't the grandmother. The tears began to fall, and I couldn't control them. I sat on the office floor, still wearing my cleaning gloves, and cried. One of my co-workers came in and found me like that. "Brenda, what happened? Are you okay?" I couldn't speak. I just showed her the phone. My grandson was born. "But that's wonderful. Why are you crying?" I found out on social media. My co-worker's expression changed. She understood immediately. "Oh, Brenda!" She helped me up. She took off my gloves. She took me to the bathroom so I could wash my face. "Go home. I'll finish up here. But I still have work to do." "It doesn't matter. Go. Call your son." I grabbed my things and left the clinic. The journey home was on autopilot. I don't remember taking the bus. I don't remember walking the 3 blocks from the stop to my door. I only remember that suddenly I was sitting in my kitchen, looking at that photo on my phone, zooming in to see my grandson's face better. He had Robert's nose, the wide forehead, hands that already looked like my son's when he was a baby. He was beautiful, perfect, and I hadn't been there. I zoomed in more on the photo. I tried to memorize every detail. The shape of his lips, his round cheeks, the way his little fingers curled. There were already hundreds of comments on the post. "Congratulations. What a beautiful baby. Welcome to the family. Blessings. Can't wait to meet him." I hadn't commented. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I had the right to comment, as if I had just found out naturally, when the reality was that I had been left out of the most important moment. I scrolled down through the comments. I saw that Laura's mum had written, "My beautiful grandson, you are the love of my life. Welcome, my angel." Her mum had obviously already met him. She had probably been at the hospital, in the delivery room, holding Laura's hand, being the first to hold Liam. All the things I had dreamed of doing. I kept scrolling, Robert and Laura's friends congratulating them, co-workers, cousins, aunts and uncles, everyone knowing, everyone celebrating. And I, the paternal grandmother, finding out through social media. I waited an hour, 2, 3. I checked my phone every 2 minutes, hoping Robert would call me, send me a text, tell me, "Mummy, Liam was born." But my phone remained silent. At 8 o'clock at night, when I couldn't take it anymore, I called him. It rang 6 times before he answered. "Mummy?" His voice sounded tired but happy. "Honey, I saw the photo. Congratulations." Brief silence. "Oh yeah, thanks. How are you? How's Laura?" "Good. Tired but good. It was a long labor, but everything went perfectly." "I'm so glad, honey. Liam is beautiful." "Thanks, Mummy." More uncomfortable silence. He didn't ask if I had seen the post. He didn't apologize for not calling me. He didn't mention anything about the fact that I, his mother, had found out about the birth of my grandson through social media? Nothing. Robert. Yes? Why didn't you call me? I heard him take a deep breath. Sorry, Mummy. Everything happened so fast. Laura went into labor at 5 in the morning. We rushed to the hospital. He was born at 2 in the afternoon. And then we were busy with the doctors, the paperwork, getting Laura settled in the room. But you had time to post on social media. Laura did that. Laura had time to post, but you didn't have time to call your mother? My voice came out sharper than I intended. Mummy, please don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm just trying to understand why I found out about the birth of my grandson from a social media post. I already told you. Everything happened very fast. So fast that in 12 hours you couldn't send me a text, a 2-word text. Liam was born. I was tired, Mummy. But not too tired to let all of social media know. Why are you making a drama out of this? His words hit me. A drama? Robert, I'm your mother. I'm Liam's grandmother. I'm not a social media follower. I'm not a distant acquaintance. I deserve more than finding out through social media. You're right. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. I should have called you. But it's already done. You found out. Liam is fine. We're all fine. His apology sounded automatic, empty. Can I go meet him? The words came out desperate, needy. Mummy, we already talked about this. No, Robert. We didn't talk. You told me to wait. But he's already born. There's no reason to wait anymore. Laura just gave birth. She needs to rest. I won't bother her. I just want to see my grandson. 5 minutes, that's all. It's not a good time. When is it going to be a good time? I don't know, Mummy. Give me a few days. A few days? Robert, he's my grandson. And he's my son. And I need you to respect what I'm asking you. His tone became firm, final. And what I need doesn't matter? Of course it matters. But you can't come right now. Why not? Because Laura doesn't want visitors. There it was. He had finally said it. Not even from her mother-in-law. She just wants close family. I am close family. Her family, her parents, her sister. And I'm not family? Mummy, stop it. I'm not going to argue this with you. Give me time and I'll let you know when you can come. The tears burned, but I wouldn't let them out. I wasn't going to cry on the phone. It's all right, Robert. Thank you for understanding. But I didn't understand anything. Take care. You too, Mummy. He hung up. I sat in my kitchen, the phone still in my hand, feeling everything collapse. For the next 2 weeks, I followed my grandson's life through social media. Laura posted photos every day. Liam sleeping, Liam yawning, Liam with his little hands gripping someone's finger, Liam in his crib, Liam being breastfed. Artistic photo, of course, nothing explicit. And in several photos she appeared, the other grandmother, Laura's mother. In one photo, she was holding Liam, looking at him with adoration, smiling from ear to ear. The caption said, "With the most loving grandmother in the world. Thank you, Mummy, for being here from day one. I couldn't do this without you." I stared at that photo for hours. The other grandmother holding my grandson, being a part of his life, being recognized, being loved. And I was here, hundreds of miles away, watching everything through a screen, invisible, irrelevant, forgotten. I commented on some posts at first. My Liam is so beautiful. I love you, my grandson. Blessings to you both. Laura never replied to my comments, but she replied to others. After a few days, I stopped commenting. Why bother? It was obvious that my presence, even virtual, was not welcome. Sarah came to visit me almost every day. She would find me sitting in my kitchen, looking at my phone, looking at photos of a baby they wouldn't let me meet. Brenda, this isn't right. I know. Have you talked to Robert? He tells me to be patient, that I'll be able to go soon. It's been 2 weeks already. I know. And are you going to keep waiting? What else can I do, Sarah? You can demand. You can set boundaries. You can tell your son that this isn't fair. And if I do that, they'll push me away completely. They already pushed you away, Brenda. What more can they take from you? She was right, but I was still afraid of losing the little I had left. In the 3rd week, I decided to try one more time. I sent Robert a text. Honey, 3 weeks have passed. Please, let me come meet Liam. I promise I won't bother anyone. I just want to see him. Hold him once, that's all. It took him 4 hours to reply. Let me talk to Laura. 2 days later. Mommy, you can come this weekend, but only for 1 day. Laura is still recovering and doesn't want long visits. 1 day, only 1 day to meet my grandson, but it was better than nothing. Thank you, honey. I'll be there. I bought the bus ticket immediately. For Friday night, I would arrive Saturday morning. I packed a small suitcase, even though I was only staying for 1 day. I packed the clothes I had bought for the occasion: dress pants, a nice blouse, comfortable but presentable shoes. I wanted to look good. I wanted Laura to see that I wasn't a mess, that I was a dignified, presentable woman who deserved respect. I also packed gifts: an outfit for Liam, a blue one with embroidered bears, a new blanket I had knitted, this one with his name embroidered, Liam. And I put the old photo of Robert in my leather purse, the one from when he was 5 and hugging me in the park. I didn't know why I was taking it. I just knew I needed to have something of that son who used to want me close. On Friday night, I took the bus, another 12 hours of travel. But this time I wasn't excited. I wasn't imagining beautiful moments. I went with a knot in my stomach, with dread. 12 hours looking out the dark window, imagining what that moment would be like. Holding my grandson for the first time, seeing his face, smelling his head, feeling his weight in my arms. I had dreamed of that moment for 9 months, and it was finally about to happen. I arrived in New York City on Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning. I went straight to a public restroom to freshen up. I changed my clothes, I combed my hair, I put on perfume, I put on makeup, even though my hands were shaking. Robert had told me to meet them at St. Jude's Hospital. Laura had a checkup appointment with the pediatrician at 9 o'clock. I took a taxi. The traffic was terrible, but I finally arrived at 9:15. I looked for them in the waiting room, and there they were. Laura sitting, with Liam in her arms, wrapped in a blue blanket. Robert next to her, checking his phone. My heart beat so loudly I thought it would jump out of my chest. I walked toward them slowly, as if approaching something sacred. Honey? Robert looked up. His expression was strange, a mix of surprise and something else I couldn't identify. Discomfort? Mum, you arrived. He didn't get up to hug me, he just nodded. Yes, good morning. I approached Laura. She looked me up and down quickly. I saw her eyes evaluating my clothes, my hair, my shoes, and I saw the judgment in her gaze. But she smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Brenda, it's good that you came. Thank you for letting me come. The words sounded more submissive than I would have liked. I looked down at the bundle in her arms. Liam, my grandson. He is beautiful, I whispered. Thank you. Can I, can I hold him? Laura pressed Liam against her chest. He's sleeping. If I move him, he'll wake up and then he cries a lot. It's all right. I can wait. I sat in the chair next to them. The silence was awkward. Robert continued on his phone. Laura looked straight ahead. I looked at Liam, trying to see his face between the blankets. How have you been feeling? I asked Laura, trying to make conversation. Good. Tired. But good. It's normal. The first few days are the hardest. Uh-huh. More silence. And how is he eating? Fine. Is he sleeping? More or less. Her answers were short, monosyllabic, making it clear that she had no interest in talking to me. 20 minutes passed that felt like hours. Finally, Liam moved. He opened his eyes. He started making little noises. Now I can, I said, hope in my voice. Can I hold him? Laura squeezed him tighter against her. He's hungry. I'm going to feed him. She got up and went to the restroom before I could say anything. I was left there, sitting next to Robert, feeling the humiliation burning me. Honey, yes? Is everything okay? Yeah, Mummy, everything's fine. But he wouldn't look me in the eye. Laura was in the restroom for 30 minutes. When she came out, her name was called for the consultation. She went in with Liam. Robert got up to accompany her. I stayed outside in the waiting room, like a stranger. I waited 45 minutes. When they finally came out, Laura was carrying Liam and talking to the doctor about the next appointment. Robert was next to her, carrying the baby's bag. Neither of them turned to look at me. I caught up to them in the hallway. How did it go? Good. Liam is perfect, growing very well, Robert said. That's great. Hey, honey, are we going to your place? I'd like to spend time with you two, see where you live. Robert and Laura exchanged a glance. Honestly, Mommy, Laura is tired. We were planning to grab a quick lunch and then rest. I can come with you to lunch. Another look between them. Plus, my family is coming over this afternoon, Laura said, speaking directly to me for the first time. The house is going to be full. No problem. I can meet them. I don't think that's a good idea. It's going to be too many people, too much noise. It won't be comfortable for you. Comfortable for me. As if she were thinking about my comfort and not the fact that they simply didn't want me there. I looked at Robert, hoping he would say something, that he would defend me, that he would say, she's my mum, she can stay. But he didn't say anything. He just put his hand on my shoulder and said, Mummy, please don't make things difficult. Don't make things difficult. Those words again. I felt something inside of me break. It's all right, I said, in a voice I didn't recognize as mine. I understand. You really do? Robert asked, obvious relief on his face. Yes. Thanks, Mummy. I knew you would understand. We went to a coffee shop near the hospital. We ordered sandwiches that I barely touched. The conversation was forced, superficial. Laura breastfed Liam at the table, using a blanket to cover herself. I tried not to look, to give her privacy, even though all I wanted was to see my grandson. After an hour, Robert looked at his watch. Mommy, it's getting late. We better take you to the terminal. I had travelled 12 hours. I had been with them for 2 hours, and they were sending me back. So soon? It's just that Laura needs to rest before her family arrives. I nodded. We paid the bill. We left the coffee shop. Robert hailed a taxi. And it was there, in the back seat of that taxi on the way to the terminal, that I finally held my grandson for the first time. 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes. Laura passed him to me with obvious reluctance, as if she were handing over something fragile that she feared I would break. I received him in my arms with trembling hands. He was so small, so perfect. He smelled like baby, like milk, like new life. His eyes were closed, his long eyelashes resting on his chubby cheeks, his mouth making sucking movements even in his sleep. I touched his little hands. They were soft, warm. His fingers curled around my index finger instinctively. My grandson. My Liam. Tears welled up, but I held them back. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me weak. I kissed his forehead gently. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "I'm your Grandma Brenda. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, but I love you. I love you so much." The taxi arrived at the terminal too quickly. Laura reached out her arms. "We're here." I looked at Liam one last time. I tried to memorize everything. The shape of his nose, the color of his skin, the weight of his little body in my arms. And I gave him back. Robert got out with me. He took my suitcase out of the taxi. "Thanks for coming, Mummy." "Of course, honey." He hugged me. It was a quick, awkward hug. "Be careful on the way. I'll call you soon." "When you can." He got back into the taxi. Before closing the door, he looked at me. "Mummy, really, thanks for understanding." I didn't reply. The taxi drove off. I watched it drive away. I watched it get smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the traffic. I stood there at the terminal entrance, my suitcase at my feet, feeling the world crumble around me. 12 hours there. 2 hours visiting, 5 minutes with my grandson, 12 hours back. And a pain in my chest that was physical, real, as if someone had opened my chest and ripped out something vital. I went inside the terminal. I bought a bottle of water that I didn't drink. I sat on a plastic bench to wait for my bus. I took out my phone. I opened social media. Laura had already posted a photo. It was from lunch at the coffee shop. Robert and her smiling. Liam sleeping between them. The caption said, "Perfect morning with my loves." I didn't appear in the photo. It was as if I hadn't been there. As if my presence hadn't mattered. As if I didn't exist. And it was at that moment, sitting in that noisy, crowded terminal, that I finally understood. They didn't want me in their lives. Laura was never going to accept me. And Robert had chosen. He had chosen to leave me out. The bus arrived. I got on. I found my seat. I sat by the window. Throughout the entire return trip, I didn't cry. I didn't look out the window. I just took out that old photo of Robert, the one from when he was 5 and hugging me in the park. I looked at it for hours, and I tried to remember when everything had changed. When that boy who needed me had become a man who saw me as a problem, when his love had been replaced by obligation, when I had stopped mattering. I arrived in Dallas at dawn. The sun was just beginning to rise. I took a taxi home. When I walked in, everything was exactly as I had left it. Silent, empty. I dropped my suitcase on the floor. I hung my leather purse on the door. And I sat at my kitchen table. The same table where Robert and I had shared so many meals, so many conversations, so many moments. I made myself a cup of coffee, even though I wasn't hungry. I just needed to do something with my hands. And it was there, sitting in that familiar kitchen, drinking bitter coffee, when my life changed forever. My phone rang. Unknown number, New York City. For a second, my heart leaped. Maybe it's Robert. Maybe he regretted it. Maybe he's going to apologize. I answered. "Hello? Mrs. Brenda Miller?" It was not my son's voice. It was a woman's voice. Professional. Cold. Yes, that's me. Good morning, Mom. I'm calling from St. Jude's Hospital, Billing and Collections Department. My blood ran cold. Yes, we have an outstanding balance on the birth account for Mrs. Laura Torres Miller, your daughter-in-law. I closed my eyes. The insurance covered most of the costs, but there is an outstanding balance of $10,000 for a private room, special medications, and some additional procedures that were performed during the delivery. $10,000. Your son, Mr. Robert Miller, provided us with your number as an emergency contact for payment issues. Emergency contact. For payment issues. He hadn't called me in 3 weeks. He hadn't let me be present when my grandson was born. He had given me 2 hours of visiting, 5 minutes holding Liam, but he had given my number to the hospital so I would pay his debts. Mrs. Miller, are you listening to me? My heart was beating slowly, very slowly. I thought about everything. The years cleaning floors in the early mornings to pay for his college, the sleepless nights when he was sick, the business he sold so he could study, every sacrifice, every tear, every moment I put his well-being before mine. I thought about how he had treated me, how he had pushed me away, how he had humiliated me again and again. And I thought about this last humiliation, giving my number to the hospital as if I were an ATM, as if my only value were financial. Ma'am, can you make the deposit this week? I took a deep breath, a very deep breath, and I felt something inside me finally break, not into pain, but into clarity, into liberation. Ma'am, we need an answer. If we can't resolve this soon, we'll have to initiate a legal process that could affect your son's credit history. My voice came out calm when I spoke, calmer than I felt, but firm, clear, final. I don't have family there. There was a silence on the other end of the line. Pardon me? I don't have family in New York City. But ma'am, our records clearly state that you are the mother of the patient Robert Miller and that there is a mistake in your records. Ma'am, there can't be a mistake. Your son personally gave us your information as a contact. My son, I interrupted, with a voice I didn't recognize as my own. He is mistaken. I do not have a son named Robert Miller. I do not have family in New York City. I have no relation to the account you are collecting. But ma'am, good day. And I hung up. I put the phone down on the table. My hands were trembling violently. My heart was beating so loudly I could hear it in my ears. But for the first time in years, I felt something I had forgotten existed. I felt power. I felt control. I felt like I had taken back something of myself, because for the first time in my life, I had told my son no. And the sky didn't fall. The world didn't end. I was still here, breathing, existing, choosing myself. 3 days passed before Robert reacted. 3 days of absolute silence during which my phone didn't ring once. I didn't turn it on after that hospital call either. I left it on the kitchen table, turned off as a reminder of the decision I had made. Sarah came to visit me on the 2nd day. Did you talk to Robert? No. Is he going to call? Probably, when the hospital tells him I'm not going to pay. And what are you going to do when he calls? I don't know. But I did know. I just didn't want to say it out loud yet. On the 3rd day, I turned on my phone. 27 missed calls, all from Robert. 15 text messages, escalating from urgency to desperation to rage. First message. Mum, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Call me, please. Third message. Mum, the hospital says you won't pay. What's going on? Call me. Seventh message. Mum, this is serious. I need you to call me now. 10th message. I can't believe you're doing this. Call me. Final message. Laura was right about you. You were always like this. Selfish. Selfish. I read that word again and again. The woman who had worked double shifts for years. The one who sold her dead husband's business to pay for college. The one who cleaned floors smelling of bleach so her son could have a better future. Selfish. There were also 2 voicemails. I listened to them. The first was pure urgency. Mum, please call me. The hospital is pressuring us. We need that money. I don't understand why you told them you don't have family here. What does that even mean? Call me, please. The second was different. Colder. You know what, Mum? Never mind. We'll figure out how to pay. But I want you to know that this says a lot about you. After everything we've been through. After everything. I can't believe you're doing this to us when we need you most. Laura was right. You've always been manipulative. You've always wanted to control me with your money. Well, it doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't. I put the phone away. I didn't call back. For the next week, Robert kept calling, less frequently, but he kept trying. I didn't answer any calls. Until an email arrived. Subject: we need to talk. I opened it. I read it slowly. Mum, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why you won't answer my calls. I don't understand why you told the hospital you don't have family here. Do you know what that did to us? Laura cried. She cried because she felt humiliated when the hospital called her directly to collect. We just had a baby. We're trying to adjust to this new life. And you do this to us. Dad always said that family supports each other in difficult times, that you can count on family. I always supported you when you needed it. When Dad died, I was there. When you had problems, I listened. When you needed something, I helped. Now that I need help, this is how you respond. I don't know what we did to deserve this. Laura just wanted some space after the birth. That's normal. Any woman needs that. And you take it as a personal attack. The hospital is threatening us with legal proceedings. It could affect our credit. All because you decided to play the victim and say you don't have family. I hope you reconsider. I hope you think about Liam, your grandson, that this isn't about you or me. It's about him. If you don't want to support us, fine. But at least have the decency to tell me to my face instead of ignoring me. Robert. I read the email 3 times. Every word was designed to blame me, to make me feel selfish, bad, wrong. And it worked. For a few minutes, it worked. You're right, I thought. He's going through a difficult time. He just became a father. He needs help. Maybe I was too harsh, I thought. Maybe I overreacted. I should call him, apologize, fix this. But then I reread a part. I always supported you when you needed it. When? When had he supported me? When his father died. I was the one who comforted him. I was the one who held this family together. I was the one who sold the business and worked until exhaustion so he could keep studying. Where was his support in the last 2 years? When I felt lonely, when I missed him, when I just needed to hear his voice. Where was he when they pushed me away from my grandson's birth? Where was he when they gave me 2 hours of visiting after 12 hours of travel? Where was he when Laura treated me like a stranger? There was no support. Only excuses. And now, when I finally set a boundary, I was the bad guy. I replied to the email. I wrote and deleted the message 100 times. I wanted to yell at him, explain, make him see how much harm he had done to me. But in the end, I wrote this. Robert, you are right about one thing. Your father always said that family supports each other, but he also said that family respects each other, that family takes care of each other, that family doesn't push you away when you are needed most. For months, I asked to be close. I asked to meet my grandson. I asked to be a part of your life. And you told me I was invasive, that I was a problem, that you needed peace in your house. I traveled 12 hours to meet Liam. You gave me 2 hours. You let me hold him for 5 minutes, and then you sent me back as if I were a nuisance. You never called me when he was born. I found out on social media. You never included me in anything, only when you needed money. I am not going to pay that bill, Robert. Not because I don't love you, not because I don't care about Liam, but because I cannot continue to allow you to treat me as if I only matter when it is convenient for you. I am your mother. I deserve respect. I deserve to be present. I deserve more than being an emergency contact for collections. I hope you find a way to resolve your situation. I really do. But it will not be at the expense of my dignity. If one day you decide that you want to have a real relationship with me, one where I also matter, I will be here. Until then, I wish you the best. Mum. I sent the email before I could regret it, and then I turned off my computer. The response arrived 2 hours later. I didn't read it until the next day. I can't believe you are so selfish. Laura was right about you from the beginning. Goodbye. That was it. No reflection, no attempt to understand, no apology, just Laura was right. And goodbye. The weeks turned into months. Robert didn't call again. He didn't write again. I didn't look for him either. At first it was hard. There were days when I picked up the phone and almost dialed his number. Days when I wondered if I had done the right thing. But Sarah kept me firm. Brenda, you didn't do anything wrong. You set a boundary. That doesn't make you a bad mother. It makes you a woman with dignity. But he's my son. And you are his mother, a mother who deserves respect. Little by little, I learned to live with the silence. I stopped checking social media. I stopped looking for updates about Liam. I stopped torturing myself by watching a life from which I had been excluded. I focused on myself. I resumed activities I had abandoned. The knitting classes, the morning walks, afternoons with Sarah. I started reading again. Books I liked. Stories that made me forget for a few hours. And slowly, very slowly, I began to feel something akin to peace. It wasn't happiness. Not yet. But it was peace. And it was enough. 6 months after the last time I spoke to Robert, Sarah asked me a question. Do you regret it? I thought about it. I really thought. No, I finally said. I don't regret it. Why not? Because for the first time in my life, I chose myself. And that's worth more than any relationship where I have to beg for love. Sarah smiled. There's my Brenda. But life has strange ways of surprising you. Just when I was starting to feel like I could breathe again, that I could live without that constant weight on my chest, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. New York City. This time I didn't hesitate to answer. I was no longer afraid. Hello? Mrs. Brenda Miller? Yes. Good afternoon. This is Fernanda Jones. I'm a social worker at Metro General Hospital. Metro General Hospital, not St. Jude's. Yes. Don't be alarmed, ma'am. Your daughter-in-law, Laura Torres, was admitted to the emergency room 2 days ago. She had a severe nervous breakdown. She's stable now, but we need to contact a close family member who can temporarily care for the baby. The world stopped. The baby? Yes, Liam. He's 1.5 years old. Your son is with her at the hospital, but he can't care for the child and be present for his wife at the same time. He gave us your contact as a second family option. Second option? not even the first. Is my son there? Yes, ma'am. Would you like me to connect you? No. The word came out automatically. I understand. Ma'am, we urgently need someone to pick up the child. He's in a temporary daycare with child services, but they can only keep him until tomorrow morning. After that, we would have to contact other agencies. I closed my eyes. A year and a half without speaking to Robert. A year and a half without seeing my grandson. A year and a half building my peace. And now this. Mrs. Miller, what happened to Laura? According to the report, it was a collapse due to accumulated stress, severe anxiety, untreated postpartum depression. She needs rest and psychiatric treatment. And my son? He's with her, but the situation is complicated. He apparently lost his job a few months ago. They've had financial difficulties. They're living with her in-laws, but the situation is tense. Everything was falling apart for them, and I was the last option. Ma'am, I need an answer. Can you come get the child? I thought of Liam, a year and a half old, who was not to blame for anything, who hadn't asked to be born in the middle of this chaos. I thought of Robert, how he had treated me, how he had pushed me away, how he only looked for me when he needed something. I thought of myself, the year it had taken me to recover, the peace I had finally found. And I made a decision. I'll be there. Because he was my grandson. And this time, I was coming on my own terms. I took the bus that same night. 12 more hours of travel. But this time it was different. I wasn't begging. I was coming because they needed me. I arrived at Metro General Hospital at dawn. Robert was in the waiting room. He looked destroyed, gaunt, with deep dark circles under his eyes, his clothes wrinkled. When he saw me, he collapsed. "Mom!" He hugged me and cried like a child. I didn't say anything. I just held him. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You were right about everything." "Where is Liam?" "At the daycare, 2 blocks away. Let's go." On the way, he told me everything. How he lost his job in Houston. How they moved back in with Laura's parents. How Laura spiraled into depression. How everything went to hell. "I treated you badly, Mom. I pushed you away. I made you feel invisible. And now I understand everything." We arrived at the daycare. Liam was playing with a toy car. When he saw me, he looked at me curiously. "Hello, Liam. I'm your Grandma Brenda." I approached slowly. He gave me a small, timid hug. And something inside me healed a little. For the next few months, I cared for Liam while Laura recovered, and Robert worked at whatever he could find. I lived in their small apartment. I cooked, cleaned, raised my grandson. Laura was discharged from the hospital 2 weeks later. When she saw me, she cried. "Forgive me. I was so scared. Scared of not being enough. Scared you would judge me like my mother always judged me. And I hurt you. It's in the past." "It's not in the past, but I want to fix it. If you give me a chance." I gave her a chance. It wasn't easy. There were difficult conversations, tears, boundaries that I set and they respected. But slowly we built something new. Not perfect, but real. Robert learned that a marriage is not built by pushing your family away. Laura learned that her fears almost destroyed everything. And I learned that my value didn't depend on how much they needed me, but on how much they respected me. Life has strange ways of bringing justice. Robert, who pushed me away thinking he was building a perfect marriage, almost lost everything. He lost his job, his house, his pride. And in the process, he learned that pushing away someone who loves you unconditionally only leaves you lonelier. Laura, who saw me as a threat, collapsed under the weight of her own pride. She discovered that being perfect wasn't possible, that she needed help, and that the help she rejected was the help she needed most. And I, who was treated as invisible, became the one who held them up when everything fell apart. Not for revenge, but by choice. The following years changed everything. Robert got a stable job. Laura continued therapy. I visited more often, but always respecting boundaries. Liam grew up knowing he had a grandmother who loved him, but who also respected herself. One day, Laura told me, "My mum was never affectionate. I swore no one would hurt Liam the way she hurt me. But in the process, I hurt you. Thank you for not giving up on us." Robert, on the anniversary of that day at the hospital, called me. "Mum, that day you said I don't have family there. It destroyed me, but it also woke me up. It was the best thing you could have done." Justice didn't come as revenge. It came as lessons. Life settled its debts. Robert learned that respect is built, not demanded. Laura learned that pride destroys. And I learned that letting go with dignity is more powerful than clinging without it. 3 years have passed. Liam is 4.5 years old. He runs towards me screaming, "Grandma Brenda!" Grandma. Every time I arrive, I no longer beg for hugs. I am no longer a second option. I am the grandmother, and that is enough. Robert and I talk every week, real conversations. Laura and I aren't best friends, but there is respect, and that is worth more than any forced hug. Last month at Liam's preschool concert, he searched for me in the audience and smiled. He ran towards me afterward and said, "I love you, Grandma." In that moment, surrounded by other families, I felt that I belonged, not because I begged, but because I earned that place. This morning, I looked at my leather purse. I took out the old photo of Robert and a recent one. The 4 of us at the park, smiling. Both tell my story. The story of a woman who gave everything, was hurt, learned to let go, and finally found her place. If you are listening to this, I want you to know. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away from those who don't value you, even if they are family. Because loving doesn't mean enduring everything. It also means respecting yourself. For years, I thought being a good mother meant always being available. But I learned that it is also teaching by example that no one, not even your own son, has the right to treat you as if you don't matter. Some endings aren't happy. They're just fair. Today, at 64 years old, I am happy. Not because everything is perfect, but because my happiness doesn't depend on anyone else. I have my grandson, I have my son, I have an honest relationship. But above all, I have myself. And that is the most valuable thing. Thank you for listening until the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and turn on notification to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next time.